Hello and welcome, one and all, to another episode here on the SitRep Podcast. I'm your host, as always, Ariscany Jim, and today we are taking a look at some more Gulf War content here on, as part of our ongoing 30th anniversary commemorative series. So, welcome to the chat, everybody. Oh, hello Ben, hello Jen, hello everybody. Thanks for coming out. Okay, so Ben Johnson's in YouTube, and he already says, I watched a YouTube video this morning. A dude said a Challenger knocked out a T-55 at 5,700 meters. Challenger 1, that is. Knocked out a T-55 at 5,700 meters. The number I've read is 4,750. But then again, I mean, who knows? I wasn't there. Who knows who's right? But I do know that the shot you're talking about, Ben, the Challenger 1, knocking out that T-55 at that absurdly long distance, is the longest range recorded tank-on-tank kill in the history of warfare. I'm not 100% sure about the number, but it was absurdly long. Okay, everybody, so like I was saying before, with everything that's going on today, we've got the Super Bowl here in the United States, and over in the UK, we have the big multinational rugby tournament or something like that going on that started yesterday. So, again, huge sports events in both of our most important countries as far as our audience goes. So I don't expect there to be a whole lot of activity on today's streams. A lot of people, I got other stuff going on today. So today, there's no opponent. It's just a demo game. I'm just going to, walk through a couple turns here of large-scale Panzer Leader, specifically Tactical Combat Middle East Edition by Toshash Miniatures. And, again, a super mellow stream, no big deal. Thanks, everybody, for coming out. And, again, if you guys got to take off to get your pre-Super Bowl party started, totally understand. I totally get it. Today is just one of those days. Nevertheless, it is Sunday, and we do have a commitment to our community. So, we've been talking about Desert Storm for a long time now. Again, we're at the 30th anniversary of what's the largest war in modern history. Again, we're mostly modern military gaming here on SitRep Podcast. You can't miss Desert Storm. It's the biggest one that hopefully we'll ever see. God forbid we have a larger modern war than that one. And it's the 30th anniversary of it. And a lot of people in our community were actually either there personally. They did this shit at 1-to-1 scale, if you take my meaning, or they were in the military during this. Either way, there's a lot of people in our community with actually a pretty intense personal connection to this conflict. So we've been trying to do it some fair amount of justice. So before, we've done a lot of 7th Corps stuff way out here, with first UK armored, some American armored battles out here, some British UK first armored out here, the Queen's Royal Irish Hussars stream, you guys may have seen that one. So we've done a lot of stuff up in this area as far as Army versus US Army and British Army versus Iraqi Army and Republican Guard. On our 15mm tabletop, we've done a lot of Marine stuff because I have 15mm Marines mostly in my physical army. So again, that's going to be 2nd Marine Division there and 1st Marine Division there. So today we're taking our Panzer Leader game and we're moving it down into the Southern Theater, so we can get a really good look at the way, at the size and ranges and sort of geometries that modern maneuver level, command scale, actual, combined arms fighting actually takes place. Because, again, unless you're playing at 6mm on a tennis court, miniatures just aren't getting the job done. I hate to tell you this. No disrespect to, all the miniature games out there, but when it comes to modern combat, the ranges and the especially on this battlefield where the lines of sight were very, very open. But yeah, when it comes to, actual brigades, regiments, or I should say regiments, brigades, and even divisions, start to lock horns and tangle on like a Team Yankee-sized engagement, you need a big game in order to even come close to squeezing in, a fraction of what is really going on there. It's like when you take a graphics image and you zoom in and you zoom out and you zoom in again. if you zoom in too much, like in a 15 millimeter or a 28 millimeter game, it literally starts to lose its resolution. It's not only looking at a very small part of the image, but it doesn't even look right. That's the kind of thing that happens with modern gaming in miniature when you're playing at scales that are, the scale of the miniature is too large and the scale of your game becomes inversely too small. So we're going to try and reverse that here. We're going to at least take a peek at a really big game. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it. The other reason I'm doing this today is, again, because of Super Bowl and rugby and everything else. I don't really have an opponent today, so I'm taking this opportunity to do something that I like, a real passion of mine, number one, and number two, this is not the kind of game I would ever inflict on anybody else. We've had some real Panzer Leader heroes in the past. Ben Johnson's on the stream right now. He's been in some huge Panzer Leader games with me. Damon has been on some 7 and 9 and 10 hour stream games with me. We've sat down and played Panzer Leader for 9-10 hours straight sometimes. Andrew over there on tabletop, that's Bruce Lee, if you know him in the community. Again, some 9 and 10 hour Panzer Leader games. So there are a few people who have really earned the Distinguished Service Cross as far as Panzer Leader goes. But here we're talking about a huge game that I'm only going to do a couple turns of it, in a demo, sort of a solitaire way. I would never inflict this game on an actual living person that I ever wanted to talk to me again. So let's see what's going on here in Mr. Chat here. 5,700 meters is 38 Panzer Leader hexes. Again, I'm pretty sure it was 4,750. At least that's the number I read, or maybe I'm remembering it wrong. But it's an insane number. Also, Ben, I'm sure you know this, but just for people in the chat and people who might be watching this later on YouTube or who knows where, Panzer Leader, in other words, okay, I guess what I'm trying to say is a Challenger 1 cannot shoot 38 hexes in Panzer Leader, even though there's a documented case of a Challenger 1 taking out a T-55 at 4,750 hexes or meters, whatever it was. There is a statistical difference, and this is one of the big differences between individual war games and unit-based war games, where if you have a Challenger, one Challenger, and he's shooting at one T-55 at X distance, he might score a hit. It might be a 1 in 1,000 shot, but he might score a hit, and he might, blow it up or whatever. Actually, it's a Challenger 1. If he hits it, it's dead. The problem is hitting it, especially if both tanks are moving. I'm assuming both tanks were moving for that shot. That's one sort of data cube of statistical possibility. When you kind of crank things up into Panzer Leader, where every piece is a platoon, and you're shooting at units, and every one of their pieces is a platoon, you're no longer... Your ranges are going to be a lot shorter. It's got nothing to do with how fast the Challengers can shoot or whatever. Just please remember that in Panzer Leader, you never roll to hit and then roll to do damage. It's a unit. So when a unit fires at another unit in Panzer Leader, it is X unit firing over R range for T time at X rate of fire, using Y ammunition versus, Z defending units, armor, plus, terrain and modifiers and so on and so forth. And you're going to wind up with a certain data cube of possibilities that take place within that volume of space-time, which, not to get super, I'm not trying to sound like a scientist here or anything. So there's only one roll. That's where you get your CRT table, and you basically make one roll, and you see, okay, when this group of tanks fired on that group of tanks for X amount of time, what was the average result? And that's when all of those 5,700, 38 Panzer Leader hexes kind of flies out the window. Because again, it's basically you're playing a game of averages at that point. So the battle that we're looking at today is going to be 1st Marine Division, or leading elements thereof. 1st Marine Division breaking through these Iraqi berms and trying to actually get into the Iraqi backfield here into Kuwait. So contrary to what a lot of people might think, the ground phase of Operation Desert Storm was not 100 hours. It was a lot longer than that. Battle of El Khafji down here, we've looked at that earlier in 38mm miniature. In 15mm miniature. That took place on the 29th, 30th, 31st of January. After that, there were battles further out west. We're talking about first of the 41st U.S. Army Task Force and the Battle of Wadi El Batin, I think they called it. Sort of a forward reconnaissance or a defensive reconnaissance mission. And then back over here to the east, you had two Marine divisions, 2nd Marine Division, 1st Marine Division, and then assisting 2nd Marine Division, you had the Army. The Army was here and was participating. We have 1st Brigade of 2nd U.S. Armored Division. This is the Tiger Brigade. Famous U.S. Army Armored Division of a very famous Armored Division, 2nd Armored. I think that's the Hell on Wheels Armored Division. Tiger Brigade consisted of a very famous regiment, probably the most famous armored regiment in America. The 66th Armored Regiment, I think 3rd of the 41st Infantry Task Force. Yeah, so basically the Army was there to sort of help out with anti-armor heavy lifting, because again, the Marines didn't really have the M1 Abrams. So we didn't really know where the Republican Guard was going to be with their T-72s, so just in case there were going to be some Republican Guard units down here. Turns out there weren't, but we didn't really know that at the time. We definitely wanted to have the Army. We wanted to have some Abrams here to help out the Marines. I think there was a single U.S. Marine Corps company that had Abrams. They were like the very first guys to get them. But by and large, the Marines were still using the M60A1, which is what we're going to be seeing today. So today we're focusing on 1st U.S. Marine, specifically Task Force Ripper, Task Force Papa Bear. I don't make up the name of the task forces, guys. This is what this is the names they picked. So I'm not sure where they got Papa Bear from, but that's what it was. Okay, so 1st Marine Division starts leaning into Kuwait as early as, I think, January 30th. So the idea that the Marines crossed the border into Kuwait on February 24th just isn't right. The Marines were literally walking half a kilometer into Kuwait, see if they get shot at. No. Push further into Kuwait. Nope. Push further into Kuwait, usually at night, probing for gaps in Iraqi minefields. Pretty soon they started catching Iraqi artillery fire. The Marines took those batteries under counter-battery artillery fire. That's mostly 11th and 12th Marine regiments. And yeah, they kept creeping in. The first real Iraqi defenses in Desert Storm, in Kuwait, are marked by this brown dotted line down here, these brown dotted lines. This is the first major Iraqi berm line. This is part of the Saddam line. It's at least an 8-foot berm, in some places fronted by an 8-foot anti-tank dip, so you're looking at a 16-foot face as a tactical battlefield obstacle. Huge minefields that the Marines were trying to get through. Some of the mines were actually armed with chemical, they basically had chemical mines, so you had to watch out for that. Some very, very thick static defenses. This is where the trepidation was. This is, and I was in the Marine Corps during this engagement, so or during this time, so I can tell you firsthand. A lot of people were extremely nervous because you're talking about a direct frontal offensive into some very thick field fortifications, huge minefields, fronted by 1, 2, maybe 3 infantry divisions, backed by armored, backed by mechanized infantry, and a large number of a lot of artillery. T-30s, M-36s, these are like 122 millimeter batteries, 152 millimeter batteries, 130 millimeter batteries, a lot of old Cold War Soviet artillery. So casualties were expected to be heavy. Right before G-Day, what we find out is most of these berms, here's an actual first-hand map from a Marine reference. You see where 1st Marine Division is starting to make penetrations through here. They find these areas largely undefended. Huge numbers of Iraqis have just straight out surrendered already. Again, the air war has been going on for 5 weeks at this point. These people have been bombed like to hell and gone. They can't get supplies, they can't get ammunition, they're half destroyed, they can't get water in some cases. So they're really having a rough time, and they're mostly conscript forces. These are not the Republican Guard. So these guys are all kind of giving up in huge numbers. In fact, this is something I just recently learned. This is how the Marines, at least in 1st Marine Division, identified the gaps in the Iraqi minefields. Iraqis were surrendering to the Marines by the hundreds, night after night after night. And it wasn't too long before Marine reconnaissance platoons began to realize, hey, those Iraqis that are surrendering to us, they're always coming down the same stretch of desert. They're literally walking down this same lane. Could that be a gap in their minefields? Boom. The Iraqi, even without talking under interrogation, the Iraqi POWs gave away the gaps in their minefields, and Marine reconnaissance regiments, or not regiments, Marine reconnaissance platoons slipped right through. And once they established positions on the far side, they could protect the engineers. The engineers came in and actually cleared, big gaps through these minefields. So the G-Day, the actual day the ground war started, the Marines went in, huge trepidation. The commanders were going around giving the Henry V speeches, the whole 9 yards. Everybody was kind of like, okay, guys, this is the Cold War. Team Yankee has finally happened. It's not happening in Germany against the Russians. It's happening here in Kuwait against the Iraqis. But nevertheless, it's game day for real. Not everyone's going to make it through this, but this is kind of, it was one of those nights. Turns out G-Day was a piece of cake. They walked right through that first berm of Iraqi defenses. Most of the positions had been pretty abandoned, or they had already surrendered. Once the engineers got through there, and they had all kinds of equipment for that, mine rolling tanks, mine plow tanks, and Amtraks mounting Mark 154 line charges. This is a tank-sized spool of what's basically det cord, the stuff they used to take down large buildings with, demolition crews used to take down buildings with. It fires off a huge spool of this stuff, hundreds of meters deep into a minefield. It lays it down in like this, almost like this chain of connected demolition charges, and then you set it off, and it sets off this explosion that's like a mile long, or half a mile long, and 40 feet wide, and it sets off all the mines in there, and boom, you have an instant lane through enemy minefields. Not very subtle, to put it mildly, but Marines are not subtle. Let's just go ahead and put it that way. So yeah, there's a huge gap already blown through the first berm. So that's G-Day. And then crossing the gap between the first and second berm is the afternoon of G-Day. That's 24 February 1991. I think there's like 2 Marine casualties, and they're actually friendly fire. Or like accidents, or I think there was an actual one chemical mine that was set off that they had to kind of take care of or whatever. Very, very light. It was like punching a paper wall that has brick printed on it. They thought it was going to be tough. The fist went right through, to the point where the Marines got a little confused. Like, okay, now what? Let's go for our day 2 objective. Okay, well, we're not ready for that. Well, just drive that way. Units got mixed up. That's where you get a little bit of the friendly fire. It's what happens when you strike an enemy position that turns out to be pretty much a bag of air. Your offensive spearhead tends to get a little disorganized. That's just a rule of war that goes back to the Germans in World War II. Day 2, however, the Iraqis were starting to make a little bit of a stand here at the second berm. Now, the second berm had already been breached twice. That's by Task Force Ripper that we're going to be looking at today, and Task Force Papa Bear that we're going to be looking at today. These are big forward combined arms elements of 1st Marine Division, fronted by the light armored vehicles of Task Force Shepherd. They get counterattacked by elements of 5th Iraqi Mechanized and 6th Iraqi Armored. Sorry, 3rd Iraqi Armored Division, and that's these units that we see coming down here. So that's the battle that we're going to be doing today. Long and short of it. If I can get my computer back here. There we go. So there's the whole Gulf War on the ground, obviously. This green box pertains to this, slight zoom in map, and then this green box here, along with this green box here, the same green box here in both cases, are what leads to our actual game map. All right, let me catch up here on Mr. Chat. Marty Schaefer loves war games. Oh, wait, we got a whole bunch of stuff going on here. Hey, Rob Temple. Yes, thank you for joining us. Yeah, we're looking at the Gulf War today. We do mostly modern post-1945, but we do plenty of World War II material as well. Panzer Leader, of course, is originally a World War II game that myself and other writers, most particularly Toshash Miniatures, has updated to 1991. So because we're in the middle of the 30th anniversaries of The Gulf War, we're doing a lot of Gulf War stuff. So again, each hex here, this map is about 70 hexes long and 40 hexes tall. 2,800 hexes, roughly. Hex 250 meters. So if you do the math, that's an 8x8 15 millimeter table. An 8x8 15 millimeter table. 2,800 15 millimeter tables is what you're looking at right here. For scale, here's an airbase with over a mile long airfield. Again, everything here is pretty much to scale. Google Earth. Again, first-hand sources from Marine Corps Institute, Marine Corps Museums Command, Marine Corps University or whatever. This is Marine Corps Education Institute, I think what they call it, MCI. So again, we're doing our homework here. We also have the exact composition of Task Force Papa Bear, Task Force Ripper. In their final iteration, they went through a lot of changes during Desert Shield. They got more and more complicated as the commanders continued to fine-tune the exact composition of these units. As you can see here, it's not so much a task force as this bewildering mishmash of units from all over 1st Marine Division. And then here we have a little bit more simplistic, but still verified and cross-referenced compositions of Iraqi units that we're going to put in today's game. So again, here's our table. The Marines are starting off around a position known as the Emir's Farm, right around here. So forward headquarters of 1st Marine Division, that's Major General James Miat, I think, Miat, if I'm saying that correctly, is here. And the Marines are allowed to sit up basically anywhere within 10, maybe 12 hexes. And that was pretty much their position at the time. Their mission was to secure the Al Burqa oil fields further here to the north, which, yes, they are on fire, and that is a game, El Burqan, sorry. Those oil fields are on fire. You'll notice the smoke counters, they do have a game effect. And especially to either take or at least isolate by fire the El Jabr airfield. The problem is the Iraqis are launching those counterattacks that I was showing you earlier out of the north and northeast. So we're going to be dealing with those. Down here we have our force compositions. Like I said, this isn't. The stream title called this an Uber game. This is definitely an Uber game. It's bigger than Panzer Leader normally is. This game, if you played it the whole way through against a live opponent, would take you at least 6 to 12 hours. This would be a big one. It's not a mega game. Mega games take 15 to 20, 25 hours. Like when we did all of Omaha Beach, it took us 25 hours to get through that of gameplay. Usually, Panzer Leader is a lot smaller than this. A good Panzer Leader game will take you 3, maybe 4 hours. This is going to take us a lot longer than that. Of course, we're not doing the whole game here. Task Force Ripper, we have their composition. Amtraks, U.S. Marine infantry platoons, U.S. Marine anti-tank companies. Again, we'll look at all this when we actually get into the game. I don't want to, bore everybody to tears. But we've got at least 4 or 5 different kinds of American infantry here, all U.S. Marine infantry, so they have U.S. Marine values. Quick word, because we have Army veterans here in our chat. When I give the Marine infantry platoon bigger stats, especially defense, bigger stats than the Army has an 8 and an 8, not an 8 and a 10. Alright, that's not me, even though I'm a Marine veteran myself, and even though the Army stinks. Just kidding, Marty. The reason that value is different isn't because I'm just trying to say, the Marines are better than the Army or whatever, or the Marines are just tougher than the Army. The defense of a Panzer Leader counter is largely dependent on the size of the unit. So that's a platoon. And a Marine platoon is based on 3 squads, same as an Army platoon normally is. The problem is, or the difference is, Marine squads back in these days were 13 men, not 8. So a Marine platoon is just bigger. There's more guys there. So to eliminate a unit and render it combat ineffective, you have to do more damage. Hence it has a larger attack value. So troop quality does come into these counters a little bit, and that's like big differences, like Germans versus Russians in 1941, Americans versus Iraqis in 1991. There'll be a difference in attack and defense numbers based purely on troop quality as a subjective measure. But when it comes on to units on the same side, I don't usually make my counters that way. When I give that number, I give that platoon a larger number, it's because of a measurable, verifiable difference in the size. It's not just, oh, I like Marines, so I'm going to give them a better number. They get much better graphics, so I mean, I'll give them that. But I'm not, I'm not going to change their, I'm not going to change their values just because. In fact, quite the opposite. Marine armor in the Gulf War compared to American U.S. Army armor in the Gulf War is terrible. Absolutely atrocious. I mean, I love the M60, it looks great, but compared to an M1A1 Abrams 1991 stats, yeah, the Marine Corps armor is definitely pretty sad. It's just half a generation out of date, and this is probably part of the reason why they put Tiger Brigade, 1st Brigade, 2nd Armored Division with 2nd Marine Division to help them out a little bit. Because they knew specifically when it comes to tanks, the Marines are at least, at the time, half a generation behind the Army. We got Humvees, we've got trucks, we've got deuce and a halves, we've got lots of LAVs. The Marines love their LAVs. I know the Canadians hate them. They call them something else, but they despise them. Marines love them though, so I don't know what's going on there. Some of my tows have tow missiles on them. Again, I've got 4 or 5 different kinds of LAVs. Command LAVs, standard LAVs, LAVs with mortars, LAVs with ITV tow projectors, you name it. Task Force Papa Bear is kind of the same, but not really. We've got 3 different kinds of engineers. Some engineers are in Amtraks, those are our combat engineers. Some are in Humvees, some are in deuce and a halves. And that's, again, 3 platoons of each. And again, that comes down to what we're seeing here in the actual records. So Company A, combat support. Those are the guys that are going to be in the Amtraks. Company A, 7th Engineer Support Battalion. They might be in trucks. And then we've got the, the combat engineers are in the Humvees. The Engineer Support Battalion, those are the guys in trucks. The guys that are in the Amtraks are the guys with the Mark 154 line charges. Those are the guys in the Obstacle Clearing Detachment, 1st Combat Engineer Battalion. So the Marines here in Desert Storm, when they're going up against these Iraqi burns, had 2 great friends in life. And no, it wasn't the Cobra and it wasn't the Hornet. 2 great friends in life. Combat engineers. At least a quarter of the Marine infantry, maybe a third of the Marine infantry on this table are some kind of engineers. And Ben will tell you how great engineers are in Panzer Leader. There are a metric shit ton of Marine engineers on the table. And artillery. Did I mention artillery? I'll mention artillery. More artillery. This is a conservative estimate of what the Marines had there. 1st, 3rd, and 5th Battalions, 11th Marine Artillery Regiment. There were 2 more entire battalions of artillery here, but they were supporting other units. So when I'm looking at my resources here, I not only see what regiments of artillery were where, that's the ones with the little dots in the center. So like here is 5th of the 12th, here's 5th of the 11th, 1st of the 12th, and so on and so forth. Not only that, but the sources also tell us who they were supporting. So we're going to leave out the guys who were supporting Task Force Taro, that's off our table, and we're leaving out the guys that were supporting Task Force Grizzly, again, that's off our table. We're looking only at the guys who are supporting Task Force Ripper, Shepherd, which is very small, and especially Papa Bear. So even with that very conservative, kind of a look at how we're doing their artillery, guys, there's a lot of freaking artillery on here, man. Each one of these is a battery. So there's 3 batteries, roughly make up a battalion, and I'm including 3 battalions. Some Hornets just in case, and some Huey Cobras from 3rd Marine Air Wing, because why not? I should say Super Cobras from 3rd Marine Air Wing. I then have the business end of an entire Iraqi division on the board. An entire Iraqi division. I say business end because I only have their 3 front maneuver elements here, and they have been bombed for 5 weeks. And 5th Mechanized and 3rd Armored Division were also involved in Al-Kafji back on 29 January. So they've already lost a fair amount of their forces. So they're not at full strength. Nevertheless, we're looking at entire battalions, I'm not kidding, of T-62s. Another battalion, T62. Part of a third battalion, T62. Again, not half strength, but partial strength. There should be some more counters here. Again, these guys are under strength because of what was going on in the world back then, the bombing and the previous battles and so on. T55s. So an Iraqi mechanized brigade would have one battalion of tanks, 3 battalions of motorized rifles, and BTR-60s. The BMPs you only see in the Republican Guard divisions, which is not this. And then an armored brigade would reverse that ratio: 3 armored battalions and one of mechanized infantry, or I should say motorized infantry. So yeah, we've got 2 mechanized brigades and 1 armored brigade. That makes up your front sort of attack wedge of an Iraqi motorized rifle division, or an Iraqi mechanized division. There is some divisional assets that I did throw in there. A lot of their artillery, Iraqi artillery, BM-21s, BM-27 multiple launch rocket trucks, stuff like that. Because the Iraqis did have a lot of artillery set up for this battle. We're going to be counter-battering the hell out of those guys, for sure. So, the map is now set up at their approximate start positions. Super overview. Again, this is kind of going off of our reference. North is not exactly straight up. North is more like that, actually. So, if you compare my map with the actual source material, yeah, you're going to see a little bit of a skew there. That's so I can get the whole thing in the same rectangle. Okay, so again, super fast. We're looking at Task Force Ripper, which was kind of like the front vanguard of a 1st Marine Division, with the exception of, and when I didn't deploy them, damn it, I thought I was finished deploying. We have Task Force Shepherd up here. Task Force Shepherd is vastly under strength because it's been chiseled away and little bits of it have been sort of, in fact, let me go ahead and, I'll fix that later. Task Force Shepherd has been sort of taken apart by the division commander. I need this company, I'm going to attach it to Task Force Ripper. Oh, I need to borrow another company, they're going to be attached to Task Force Grizzly. I need another one to defend my own divisional command post. That's Bravo Company, 1st Marine Reconnaissance Battalion of Task Force Shepherd. They turn out to be a very important unit. I'll show you exactly where they are historically. So yeah, by now, what used to be a task force is basically a reinforced company. But again, that's what was there. So that's Task Force Shepherd. We already talked about Task Force Ripper. Task Force Grizzly was sort of the other wing of this penetration through the berm, and their job was to take this little town here that was formerly for Kuwaiti oil workers, and then into the Albercan oil fields, which again is partially obscured by all these oil fires. These oil fires are terrain features. They do block line of sight, and no unit is ever allowed to occupy or pass through an oil fire hex, because it's literally thousands of degrees. These oil fires were not like normal house fires. It took years to put these out, as everyone probably remembers. So they do block line of sight though. So they are a tactical, factor. It was also very foggy on this morning. This is early morning, 25 February 1991. Visibility in some cases was down to what would be on this table, like 2 or 3 hexes, without some sort of thermal sight or starlight scope or something like that, without some kind of optical assistance. So yeah. And then of course we have the Iraqis. So the Iraqis are coming down with 22nd Mechanized Brigade, 5th Mechanized Division. They hit Papa Bear really hard. We'll see how that turns out in today's game. Historically, they hit Papa Bear very hard. 5th Mechanized Brigade was going straight for the Divisional HQ, which is right down here. And then the real punch was 26th Armored Brigade, which sort of hit Task Force Ripper in the flank. And, well, it didn't hit him in the flank. Task Force Ripper kind of saw them coming and pivoted to fight them off. Luckily, both Task Force Ripper and Papa Bear have a full Marine armor battalion in them. Now, I say full Marine armor battalion, it's a task force, so there's pieces kind of stuck to and Lego blocked and glued into this thing. Long story short, take your first shot. It comes out to about a battalion of tanks in both task forces. So we'll see how that goes. So over here to turn 1, we should start off with just moving some Iraqi units around. But for now, I'm going to hastily deploy poor Task Force Shepherd here. I forgot to deploy these guys. I sort of staged them in like their general location, but I didn't actually set them up. So I've got Marine anti-tank unit, anti-tank platoon, a Marine weapons platoon, a LAV with a law rocket, not a law rocket, sorry, a TOW missile, ITV, sort of a turret on there. Let's see what else we got here. We've got a mortar battery. So I'm going to put these guys in the back, these guys here, spread out because the Iraqis have a lot of artillery. You don't want to bunch up when the enemy has a lot of artillery hanging around. Alright, so that's my new position for Task Force Shepherd. And last but not least, I've got a little bit of issue here with El Jabra Air Base. So I'm going to set them up where they have hold down shielding, and also protection from line of sight. Can I move Meg even further? Oh my gosh. You got to be careful with your artillery. So again, each one of these is a battery of about 6 guns. The hex is about 250 meters wide. So this artillery park is at least a mile wide. 11 hexes to the mile, no, 7 hexes to the mile, roughly 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. A mile and a half wide. Again, you want to disperse that stuff so when Marine counter battery fire starts coming down, you don't lose your forces too quickly. Now, historically, 25 February, the Marines took a handful of casualties. Handful. I think 1 killed and about 10 wounded. And the Iraqi force was pretty much shattered in place. So we're gonna see if we wind up with that general kind of result. Again, we're not gonna play through all 10 or 20 turns here. This is gonna take a week to play a game this size. Again, Super Bowl, rugby, not that many people are going to be checking us out today. We're just going to push some counters around and have a little bit of fun. Let everybody go and plenty of time to go set up their Super Bowl party. Alrighty. So, here in the chat, Ben Johnson says, holy smokes, look at those force pools. Yeah, it's a big game. Again, I didn't call it a mega game. It's bigger than a normal Panzer Leader game. So I said, you know what, I'm going to just call it an Uber game. It's a big game. It's just not stupid huge. It's not Omaha Beach. It's not Prokhorovka. But it is definitely bigger than the average Panzer Leader game. For damn sure. Looks like, okay, we got the teams today are Kansas City at Tampa Bay. From what I understand, this is one of the few times a team has gotten to play the Super Bowl in its own stadium. Usually they pick a neutral stadium for that. But for some reason... Okay, so Ben Johnson adds, I wasn't sure if your hexes were the 250 meters or the modified 150. Ben asks a really good question. Normally when I play Panzer Leader, I play World War II. That's the original, place, the original setting of the game. Yeah, then we kind of shrink things down to 250 meter hexes. And there's a whole, I won't get into it, there's a huge stack of reasons why I changed that. It fixes a lot of problems with the original Panzer Leader system. There's a little bit of fixes you have to do to correct problems caused by that change in hex size. Stacking limits, infantry movement rates, there's a few other things, but believe me, it's worth it. When you go into modern settings, 1967 Six-Day War and Arab-Israeli Wars, 73 in Arab-Israeli Wars, 82 Lebanon and Arab-Israeli Wars, and especially 91 and even 2003 in Tactical Combat Middle East by Toshash Miniatures, I always go back to 250 meter hexes, which means 4 units in a stack for a maximum stack. You go back to the old rules of 250 is the short version of that. Replying to Rob Temple, okay, where are your place then? I know you're a World War II guy. You'll find we have something for everyone. We do have, yes, there is an emphasis on modern scenario games. Again, we're pretty loose with our definition of modern. Modern is post 1945. And the reason we picked that as our benchmark is because that's when modern warfare becomes modern. Believe it or not, what makes a war modern has nothing to do with technology. Take a look at most of the wars going on around the world today. You've got wars that are fought with rocks and hatchets. I'm not kidding. Or their grandfather's AK or whatever. Most wars are post 1945 are shockingly low tech. What makes modern wars modern is that whole Clausewitzian total war concept that we had in World War II. That goes out the window for a number of reasons. Number one, the atomic bomb. Number two, the United Nations. Number three, television. Later on, the internet. In other words, media. In other words, populations that are going to put up with this shit a lot less than they used to. The response we saw in America after Pearl Harbor, that is never happening again. And it's got nothing to do with the decline of our culture or anything like that. Others may disagree. It's got to do with media. It's got to do with you can no longer gather around the radio for one of FDR's fireside chats. You've got television, you've got the media. Look at Vietnam. Look at Afghanistan. You cannot. I mean, the Russians in Afghanistan in the 80s. Even in a totalitarian culture, you cannot have a total war nowadays. Your people are not going to put up with it. The atomic bomb means that you cannot have a total war. And again, you've got the United Nations always a telephone call away. So modern war is, with certain exceptions, very, very few exceptions, and even those you can argue, always limited. That's the main hallmark of modern war, and that's post-1945. But we do World War II as well. Along with American Revolution, we're going to expand into Civil War sooner or later. I've even got some wheels turning on ancient Rome, believe it or not. So we're historical wargaming. If it ever really happened, it's in our wheelhouse. However, we really focus on post-1945. That's kind of our mandate. Alright, so now that everyone's deployed, finally, I was trying to set these guys up while we were recording our podcast earlier. So, yeah, I missed a couple guys. Alright, the Iraqis, believe it or not, are on the attack. So, moving from left to right, we're going to go ahead and start our game. I thought I had a turn sequence here. Oh, no I don't. That's okay. I know the turn sequence for Panzer Leader pretty well. So we're going to go ahead and start off by calling in new artillery. Alright, what can the Iraqis see? The Iraqis can see a lot. So they're going to call in some hella artillery. That artillery does not come in until next turn. So I'm just going to have that be Barrage 1, Barrage 2, Barrage 3. Except I've got 4 barrages. Oh man. I gave the Iraqis too much artillery. I'm just going to pretty much bombard this whole forward American line here. Marine line here. See if I can get lucky. Alrighty. Awesome. Next, so yeah, you call in your new artillery, then you resolve any artillery you called in last turn. Obviously, the first turn of the game, no artillery. You go to direct fire. No one's got line of sight yet. That's kind of a precondition of setup. No enemy can have no units. Opposing units can never have line of sight on each other. The battle's just starting. So we're going to skip fire phase. We go straight to movement. T-62s out the wazoo, as in a whole freaking battalion of them. Under strength battalion, but nevertheless, a whole battalion of them. I'm keeping these dunes between me and the Marines so they can't just immediately open fire on me. I'm going to try and play a little smart as the Iraqis. Slightly. One big tactic that the... One big tactic that the Iraqis definitely did use, and I'm totally using it here. I don't know if you guys can notice. They set all these oil wells on fire and they used them for cover. You cannot shoot through Oops, you cannot shoot through a smoke axe. Where was this guy? Okay, again, for people who are, maybe new to the stream here, this is a platoon of T-62s. Actually, for a Soviet era thing, it's a half company. How about we just say it's 5 tanks? 4 to 5 tanks. So, attack factor. How hard it hits. The weapons class. A is armor piercing, I is infantry, H is high explosive, M is mortar. There's a whole bunch of them. G is guided missile. They have different behaviors, and we'll get into that when it happens. 16 is the range. These are a pretty long range. These are 115 millimeter guns we have here on the T-62s. They're not terribly accurate, but they do reach. The defense, they had about 200. The glacis plate was about 120 millimeters. The turret front's about 220 millimeters of homogeneous plate, angled at 60 degrees, so pretty decent defense. And 10 is the movement. Soviet tanks are pretty fast. Ever since the T-34, they've liked having relatively fast tanks. Of course, against Abrams, it's not nearly as big a deal, but we can't move through a smoke axe. All right, hold on. I'm trying to get close enough to overrun position. I'll explain how overruns work. Ben knows what I'm talking about. But not get too close to where they can see me through these dunes. I've got Sager anti-tank missiles back here to support in case the Marines attack me instead. God damn, I got more tanks. How big did I make this game? So I just moved 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. 45 tanks. Do that in bolt action very quickly. Using those dunes as cover. Make sure this guy can't see me. Nope, that's not a legal shot. They're being very, very careful. The Iraqis are. Do I want to just bum rush and take the losses? Let's do it. Let's have a fun stream. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. These are some very brave Iraqis. They are trusting in numbers. Because those Marine M60s to the south can totally see them. They're just going for it. Notice I'm only moving half my movement. I'm only moving 8 hexes. There's a reason for that. One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. This is the fun thing about games like games on this scale. I literally just moved about 1,500 men. And as a general, again, when you're playing Panzer General, Panzer Leader, you're at least a colonel. Here, I'm pretty much a major general, if not a brigadier general. Or I'm definitely a brigadier general, perhaps a major general. In fact, there's a major general on the table. Where is he? There's literally a piece for him right here. This guy. That is Major General James Myatt, if I'm saying him correctly, Commander 1st U.S. Marine Division, 1st MARDIV. He was actually there. In fact, he damn near got overrun because he was a little too. He was cosplaying. He was doing his Rommel cosplay. He got a little too close to the front. Again, this is probably stupid, but I'm just kind of trusting in numbers. This is almost the motorized version of the human wave attack. Again, these BTRs could be going a lot faster than this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 8. Stick to 8. I'm making sure I move around that oil fire there. We've got trucks. That shouldn't be there because I didn't deploy them right. Let me fix that super fast. Okay, we've got saggers back here. Everyone knows what a sagger is. If you don't know what a sagger is, look up something the Israeli tank force to this day still calls Black Monday. Monday, October 8th, 1973. An entire Israeli armored division, 300 tanks, gone. They never saw an Egyptian tank. A little bit of hubris there for the poor, or not the poor, for the vaunted IDF. All right, we got one more brigade to move around here. When was the last time you heard that in a game? I got one more brigade. I'm just going to go ahead and shove it forward. Alright, I'm going to hit these Americans on the flank. I'm going to blow up some empty Amtraks. Okay, we're going to have some actual opportunity fire here. So to get the stream going, the 5th Mechanized, 22nd Mechanized, 5th Mechanized Division is going to get a little silly. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I am in overrun position. So, I probably had to spend 2 to go through that orchard. So it's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Notice I only moved 7 hexes. I have 10 movement rate. I have at least 2 movement points left. I can conduct an overrun attack. So I'm going to go ahead and try to overrun some empty AAVs. It's kind of a cheesy tactic. It's a little gamey, but that's how the Iraqis earn victory points, by actually blowing up empty vehicles. So you can destroy units, but not actually cause a lot of casualties. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Also overrun. Now, the Marines are going to have something to say about that. Because I have some M60s back here that say, oh, hell no. We've got easy lines of sight. This guy cannot see there. He's blocked by that dune. This guy can see. Yeah, we got, oh my god. Yeah, you see all that yellow? Picture those as tracers on 105mm M68 E1 guns. Pretty much the licensed version of the British L7 rifle. Oh dear God in heaven. Okay. The range is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so these double. That's going to be 72. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That's going to double. That's going to double. So here's how I build a here's how I build a tank company in Modern Panzer Leader. Let me see if I can find it here. This map is so huge. Oh my god, where am I? A lot of units on the table. Okay, finally. So this is a Marine tank company. It's faced northwest. 1 platoon, 4 tanks. 2 platoon, 4 tanks. 3 platoons, 4 tanks. Notice this one has half values for attack and like 2/3 values of defense. This is your first platoon, so that's going to be tank 11, 12, 13, 14. Second platoon, tank 21, 22, 23, 24. Third platoon, tank 31, 32, 33, 34. And then here is your XO and your CO. Tank number 55, tank 66. That is your CO, that is your XO and your CO. So it's a half tank platoon, that's why it has half values. Long story short, that's the command element. And that is 1 company. 1 company, 2 companies, and then somewhere else on the table is our 3rd company, and that makes up our battalion. Where's 3rd Company? Where's 3rd Company? Where are you at? Oh, there it is, way over there. So this battalion, again, tank battalion, occupies the front, what is that, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, coming up on 2 miles. 14 hexes is roughly 2 miles. Alright, so for now, Sabo silver bullet ammunition, so they double out to half range. Half range is 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So I'm pretty sure Bravo Company here is going to be able to take care of most of that. 72 versus 12, 72 versus 12, 72 versus 12, and 36 versus 12. I'll add him in there. So it's going to be these 5 platoons, all of Bravo Company, and we'll say 1st platoon of Charlie Company of this battalion are just going to cut loose on these Iraqis that are rushing in. Now they're taking their fire phase early. It's called opportunity fire. That means that when it comes to the Marine turn, they won't get to move or shoot. Or I should say they won't get to shoot. They're taking their fire early. Cool. So 5 to 1 here. We got pretty much 4 5 to 1s. Ben, you'll notice that this table is a little different. This is the TCME table, which I'm actually starting to like a little bit more. The more I use it, it makes a little bit more sense than the original Panzer Leader and Panzer Blitz tables back from the 70s. So I'm just going to roll, yeah, pretty much anything but a 6 kills them. How fast can you kill, how fast can you kill 2 battalions, I'm sorry, how fast can you kill 2 companies of Iraqi tanks? Ask the Marines. The Marines say you can kill them that quick. There are no 6s in there. There are now 4 burning platoons, or 4 half companies of burning Iraqi tanks. Now, most of that battalion has now taken its turn. That's going to hurt me later on. But for now, boom, that was easy. Okay, who else do the Iraqis have? The Iraqis have more tanks. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Ooh, wait, I have to do that differently. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now, most of these guys have fired. All these guys fired, this guy fired. No line of sight, no line of sight, no line of sight. These guys have line of sight, but they're much further away. They will no longer double because they're no longer within half range. Zoom out a little bit. Also, this guy has no line of sight. So now we're looking at 36, 36, and 18. That's going to be another 5 to 1. And then a 1 to 1. Damn, one of these guys might actually make it. Okay, here we go. Double 6s. Did that show up on camera? Marines? What the hell, man? 6s is the worst roll you can get in this game. So that is 2. One of them was at 5 to 1. That's still a dispersal. He's still pinned down, and 1 to 1 was just a straight out whiff. One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, the Marines are officially losing this game. Yes, I just said it. So now we're going to do 2 overruns. Well, hold on. Technically, these guys get a chance. Believe it or not. So I know Ben's probably shitting the chicken right now. Ben's like, how can you shoot I-class weapons against tanks? In Arab-Israeli wars, you're allowed to do it. You're allowed to do it at ranges of 2 or less. And that's because Arab-Israeli wars takes place in the 60s, 70s, and obviously here the 90s. So we're talking about, it's basically different editions of Panzer-Leader, the basic Panzer-Leader system. Because after the 1960, your I-class weapons are assumed to be including some light anti-tank stuff. It's pretty crappy. Okay, cool. But it's still possible. And what I mean by that is specifically these AAV-7s, carry a Mark 19 automatic grenade launcher and a 50 caliber machine gun. Will they kill a T-55? Probably not, but they might knock off a track, jam a turret, bust the periscope sights out of the commander's sight. You know, who knows. I also forgot I have a Marines weapons platoon back here. These are Dragons. No, sorry. I have this. This is what I can do with. Okay, so the Marines might not be quite as dead as I thought. Because if both of these T-55 platoons overrun these two AAVs, that's it. That's two dead AAVs. That is 20 victory points to the Iraqis. Yeah, I have to kill 20 Iraqi units to make up for that. So I think I'm still losing one, but I'm trying to make sure that I don't lose that. So this guy's going to launch his missile. That should be G, by the way. That's not A. So he does not double. 16, 12, because I'm within 2 hexes. 16 and 12 is... Oh man, I had a calculator here. 16 plus 12 is 28. Plus 8, that's the machine guns and the Mark 19s on the AAVs themselves. This guy will jump in and try and help. This guy's too far away. I-class weapons can only attack armored vehicles within 2 hexes. You got to be right up on top of them. But I do have 2 more 8s, that's going to give me 16 more. Grand total of 44. That's still not, damn it, quite 2 to 1. This platoon is within 2 hexes. He can throw in 4 points. So that's going to give me... Stop taking my calculator, man. Let me move this over here so I can always get to it. There we go. Sorry about that. I got this. This is all opportunity fire. Basically, the Marines are firing in desperate defense. All right, so that's going to be a 4 to 1 on this unit here. I'm going to try and take them out. That's all this infantry stuff. All right, so get out Mr. Web Camera. Do not roll another 6, Marines. Come on, you're embarrassing me. A 5, that's almost as bad. 4 to 1, they roll the 5. That is pinned down. D is dispersal, so it's basically pinned. Still failed to destroy him, but at least I knocked him down to pin. Once he pinned him down, he can't overrun me. And then that's it. This guy's going to overrun this unit. That is a destroyed Marine unit. Probably no casualties. It was an empty vehicle. Wasn't carrying anybody. I'm sure the crew bailed out. But for game purposes, it's usually a 10 to 1 differential. Especially for armored units. And that was a straight out overrun. That ain't good, man. That kind of stank. I'm not gonna lie. Hey. Okay, let me finish up my Iraqi movement. Again, we're gonna go ahead and start our bum rush. Actually, no, I'm not. Let me not be stupid with the Iraqis. They're going to stay back here in these orchards. This is too perfect of a defensive position. Not defensive position. What's the word I'm looking for? Too stupid of a, or it's just too good of a staging point. So the Iraqis, it's always easy to control an army on a game board. Obviously, I'm probably doing a lot better than the Iraqis did in real life. But the basic Iraqi plan is I sent forward, I pretty much pissed away the better part of an Iraqi tank battalion to overrun 1 platoon of AAVs. But right now the Iraqis are winning this game 10 to 4, if you want to look at the score. 10 points for every Marine armored vehicle unit, 1 point for every Iraqi unit. So as of now, the Iraqis are winning this game 10 to 4. If the Marine tanks or AAVs try to get cute and make a counterattack, I got some SAG or anti-tank missiles waiting for them. There's also mortar support, both battalion level 82 millimeters, regimental level, or I should say brigade level, 120 millimeters. I'm sorry, there's somewhere else. I got engineers in there. Let me move forward with my engineers a little bit. There we go. I'm staying nice and dispersed so I don't make too good of a target for people. I've got air defense back here in case those Cobras show up. There are my 120 millimeter mortars. And again, we're talking about we're literally gazing over miles of terrain here. So especially in the desert, this is kind of the size and scale of how these games, how these battles tend to unfold. Okay, now the reason all these BTRs, and man, there is a beatload of them. The reason the reason they all moved only half their movement is because carrying units that are, or transport units that are carrying passengers, if they only move half of their movement, can unload at the end of that half movement. So again, each one of these is a platoon of about 50 men. So we're looking at, I don't know, 300-400 guys here. They all just jumped out of their BTRs. So infantry unit on top of the carrier unit means that it's dismounted. If the carrying unit is on top, it means that it's still loaded. That's how you tell. And for our World War II fans out here, again, Panzerleader was originally a World War II system. And that's, you know, trust me, you see battles, holy crap. Bill's played them here on our SITREP command team. Of course, Ben's played plenty of World War II stuff. It is, in Panzerleader, Damon, you can get to some absurd games. Absurd games. Bill and I actually took a swing at a portion of Prokhorovka, climax of the Battle of Kursk on the southern shoulder there. We didn't do the whole thing, obviously. The game would take literally like a year. I have built that game, but I haven't actually tried to play it. It would literally just, you know, melt your brain. Bring to front, cool. It would be about 20 times the size of this game. So, yeah, draw your own conclusions there. Alright, so all that Iraqi infantry has now dismounted. Sweet. We now go to overruns. We've already done overruns, cat attacks. We've done cat attacks. There are no cat attacks. That's like infantry close assault. Just clean up my movement here, make sure I got everything. It's mostly just, you know, command units back here. Air defense vehicles. There's the head Iraqi honcho right there. There is the commander of 5th Iraqi Mechanized in his little MTLB. Last looks. Cool, that will complete Iraqi turn 1. Like I said, for the moment they're winning. This little melee over here on the extreme wing. Let me check out Mr. Chat here. Okay, cool. Ben, yeah, you've seen this this new CRT before. Awesome. Jen's always happy when there are some poofs on the table. Yeah, so poofs are, of course, the black smoke counters that you always put on your miniature table. Here in Panzerleader, they actually serve a game function. I do put smoke counters on the map to show destroyed units just in general, but the ones that actually have a small tank on there and fire and smoke means that it's a destroyed AFV, a destroyed armored fighting vehicle. It doesn't have to be a tank, but it could be an AAV as long as it's armored. In other words, not a Humvee, not a truck, not a Jeep. An LAV-25 and up, pretty much. It has to be technically an armored vehicle. And it actually counts as a stacking point, because a hex can get so cluttered with wrecks that you can't move through it easily. So that these little flaming tanks aren't just there to be grisly, they do have a game effect. This whole little corridor here, 750 meters of desert, has 25 burning tanks and APCs in it. So it's not to that point yet. You picture 750 meters and the wrecks of 25 AFVs. It's not to that point yet, but it's getting there. As far as like, holy crap, man, it's to the point where units can't easily move through this. Here's a quick point. That's the reason this guy could not overrun from that hex. Because, again, those rec counters count as stacked units in the hex. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You're not allowed to have 5 units in a hex. You can only have 4. So this last Iraqi half company had to kind of swing around on his left wing there to get at those AAVs, which exposed him to a little bit more fire, but he was okay. Again, believe it or not, these burning rec counters do force you sometimes to make unpleasant tactical choices, because the battlefield does get crowded. Alright, like I said, that's the end of the Iraqi turn. I'll save the file. Okay, Ben Johnson says, the problem with those flat Soviet turrets is the gun can only depress a few degrees, making hold down beside those berms difficult. Yes, that is very correct, Ben Johnson. In fact, Arab-Israeli Wars does have a rule for that. So when you're at hold down shielding, which I won't explain right now because I don't want to take up I don't want to waste too much more time. Hold down shielding is when you're kind of behind a sand dune or a berm of some kind and you're shooting directly over it. Your vehicle is supposedly, or is assumed to be partially screened behind that berm. Soviet-built tanks get a smaller bonus. They get a bonus. A Soviet tank can go hull down, but because of that depression angle that Ben's talking about there, it cannot depress its gun as far as a NATO tank, and therefore, in order to get any kind of a decent firing position, more of the Soviet tank has to be exposed. So the game effect, in summary, is for hold down shielding, Soviet tanks get a -1 on their defense, which is a bonus, and other tanks get a +2. So they still get a bonus. They don't get nearly as good a bonus, though. Again, it's because of that depression number that Ben's talking about. Okay, Marine turn. Oh my God, dude. Could I see any of that artillery? Oops, wrong tool. I don't think so. Oh! Yes, I do. I saw some of that artillery. Okay, so before I get too ahead of myself, the turn starts with you have to call in your fire support missions. All right, so here's a shit ton of artillery. Obviously, these 3 guys, this first regiment of artillery, I'm going to go ahead and make a roll for them. They have to make a counter battery roll. Their radar is trying to track where those Iraqi artillery shells came from. So they're going to make a counter battery roll. Okay? I'm going to basically roll a 1 or a 2 for every one of these units, and for every one of those units, they're spotted. That's what that whole battery is going to do. So which 3 am I going to try and spot? The big ones. Where are the big ones? These 3 guys here. Okay. So here I go. Come on, give me a good number. Good number, good number, good number. I got no successes. No 1s, 2s, or 3s. Damn it. Do I want to put another battery on that? Or I should say another battalion? No, because by then I'm going to have aircraft on the table that can call it in for me. So no. There's going to be no counter battery fire this time. The radar just couldn't find them in time. And I'm going to have air power that's going to have more of that stuff spotted next turn anyway. So I'm not going to waste more batteries on fruitless counter battery fire. Instead, these other 6 batteries, yes, I said that, 6 batteries, they're going to take, oh good God, I don't even have 6 counters here. I'll just use 1 6 times because they're all the same. I'll just have 3 doubles. How about that? I'll have 3 double barrages. Yeah, you kind of have to guess where the enemy's going to be, which in a solitaire game is kind of easy. But I'm trying to be pretty fair in that, okay, I know. Also, I don't have them spotted. Okay, I can't quite do that. Just in case these guys bum rush me. Oh man, I'm gonna call in fire missions here. Because again, this is a demo game. Again, it's awfully easy to predict where the enemy's going to be, or where the enemy's going to attack when you're playing both sides. I know it's not really fair. But when I'm kind of role-playing here, again, that sounds kind of strange in a war game, but here's the Divisional Commander, and this actually happened historically. About 5:15, 6 o'clock in the morning, right when the sun was first coming up, 25 February 1991. Again, that's the Major General that's commanding, 1st Marine Division. He's in this hex, and he is now pretty much under fire. This is Charlie Company, 1st of the 1st Marines up here, and this is Bravo Company, Task Force Shepherd. So these poor guys, wait a minute, that's not true. Where are they? There they are, sorry. I had him slightly misidentified. Bravo Company of Task Force Shepherd. They missed the Battle of Kafji, more or less, and by the time they got into battle on day 1, the shooting was basically over. Again, day 1 of the Desert Storm for these Marines units specifically was kind of a joke. So they were looking forward to heading further west and actually getting into the mix with the rest of Task Force Shepherd's way the hell over here. The division commander stopped them they're literally driving up this road, held out his hand, stopped them and says, I need you to cover this gap, because he's really only got 2 companies against an expected huge attack coming down out of the north. And this is his literal personal pink ass is sitting there in that LAV-25. He's like, dude, I need more units to kind of protect me here. This is my life we're talking about. These guys were actually really upset. They actually went to their colonel and they kind of appealed the general's decision. And they were like, we're going to miss the whole war here, which makes the Marines sound a little bloodthirsty. First of all, Marines are a little bloodthirsty. But secondly, if you go into combat like this and you don't have combat action in your service record book, you're not going to get promoted after that. It's an actual career thing. I'm overgeneralizing there, but there is a real reason these guys wanted to get into combat. Also, they're comrades, they're brothers, they're comrades in arms in other companies of that task force are engaged against whole regiment, whole brigades of Iraqi armor, and they're back here covering the general. So they were a little unhappy about being here. Again, this is Bravo Company of Task Force Shepherd. This is almost like the poor 20th Maine at Gettysburg. They got put right smack in the middle of the battlefield, and before they know it, oh, you wanted to get in the action? Have no fear. Okay, 15th Mechanized Brigade's got all the action you can handle. And these guys became one of the, specifically Bravo Company Task Force Shepherd, sort of cross-attached to Task Force Ripper at this point, became one of the units. Navy Crosses, I don't know if any Silver Stars went down over there. Navy Commendation Medals. There was a little bit of metal thrown that way, because these guys are about to be in the thick of it, to be sure. So the reason I went into all that is because, again, there's the general. He doesn't know where the Iraqis are going to be. I'm pretty sure that if I was really playing this game, I would be looking at a cat attack next turn from, Iraqi infantry coming down from the south, or coming down toward the south. So I'm going to drop in some preemptive artillery and try to, take them out as they come in. Again, it's kind of silly because I'm playing both sides, but in a real game, you don't know what the enemy's going to do. You don't show him where your artillery is. You just write down these hex numbers on a sheet of paper, and it's all a blind guessing game. And it gets to be really immersive when it comes to artillery. You have to know exactly what you're shooting at, and you have to guess ahead of time. Alright, so that's artillery. American, or I should say Marine fire phase. Would be awesome, except a lot of my Marines have already fired. So they will not be able to fire now. At least over here. Fired. No, didn't fire. Too far away. Okay, so the guys that... Oh, number 4, on the artillery, I'll use for all my mortars. I'm going to call in mortars on these dispersed units, because I know they can't move. So I know they're going to be where they're going to be next turn. That's not a, oh, solitaire, I'm playing both sides, I know those tanks are going to be there. So calling in artillery on pinned down units, they're literally pinned down. It's usually a good bet. The whole idea of being pinned down, they're not really moving around very much. Okay, so there's not a whole lot of fire, at least over there to the east. Further west, I have Marine tanks that I have to get to work. Holy crap, yes. One, two, three, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. It's tempting to just blow up a shit ton of BTRs. The problem is there's a lot of tanks coming towards me, but I can't see them yet. Okay, Marines get split fire and move roll. So these 8 Marine units here, these 8 Marine tank platoons and command elements, about 40 tanks, are just going to open fire into this huge mass of the ones that they can see. They can't see many of them. BTRs. I really should have taken opportunity fire and blown them up while they still had their Iraqi infantry in them. But that part of the turn has already passed. That's when you really have to pay attention. So the Iraqis kind of got away with that. I don't want to go back and be cheesy, back into the Iraqi movement phase. So I won't do that. All right. So first, I'm just going to roll those Marine, those 8 Marine tank units. I'm literally just trying to knock out those empty BTRs. So they're all 36 becomes 72 against 4. I mean, it's absurd. I mean, again, American tank gun versus a BTR at like less than a kilometer. It's I'm sorry, 2 kilometers. Yeah, this is not going to be. Basically, I'm trying not to roll 6s. And I rolled no 6s. Okay, these Marines here on Task Force Ripper are a little more squared away. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I'm just going to shovel them off the board. How fast can you kill 40 IFEs? Come on, game. Scroll over there. Keep these at least a little neat because it is important for scoring purposes. One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So yeah, there's a fair amount of you know, a wee bit of violence. And that was these guys. Next. They can't see through that smoke, through that oil well. The Iraqis are using to their advantage. Can't see him, but these two. Do I want to waste more? Ooh, wait a minute. By the skin, the hair of my chinny chin chin, these 2 Marine tank platoons can see. And these 2 can see some T-62s, although at some distance. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 hexes away. I am in range. I'm at more than a half, so I don't double. Okay, cool. It looks like Charlie Company of, I think it's 3rd Battalion. Hold on. Not that it super matters, but Task Force Ripper is 3rd Tank Battalion, 3rd Company, 1st Tank Battalion. Yeah, 3rd Tank Battalion. Okay, cool. Charlie Company, 3rd Tank Battalion. He's going to open fire on these T-62s. 3 36s and an 18. 120. Oh my God, 126. Nice. They are 12 apiece. Can I engage both of them at a good number? 126 divided by 24 is, yep, okay, I can engage those two at 5 to 1 odds. So you take your total attack factor, apply any modifiers, like sometimes they double, sometimes they halve, sometimes you have to add one to the die roll if they're in cover. These guys are not in cover. You divide it by the total number of defense factors you want to engage. Again, 12 is the defense factor. I want to engage that whole company, so both counters I will engage with these 4 Marine counters. So these 4 Marine counters, 14 Marine tanks, are going to engage these 10 Iraqi tanks at 11 times 250, whatever that is, in meters. 2,750 meters. It's not quite the extent of our range, but it's getting close. Then again, they're T-62s. I'm firing silver bolts out of M68 E1s is the gun. I'm not expecting too many problems here. So, here I go with my dice cam. Come on, baby. A 4. That is 2 more burning T-62s. And these are real tanks. These aren't just empty BTRs. Crap, where were they? Were they in 34? Where were they? Yeah, okay, cool. 3410. So you can see how asymmetrical this game is just kind of turning out to be. I mean, look at this kill ratio. However, the score is now just barely tied. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. The score is now 14 to 10. The Marines are winning, but not by much. And again, once these Iraqi units finish closing with the Americans, it's going to get ugly. Just to kind of do a few more quick things and maybe wrap up the stream. I do have a tow missile launcher here and a heavy weapons platoon that is going to try and take out something I can see because I'm semi-careless. Oh no, sorry guys, I hastily turned off my my little CBS chalkboard here. So I will okay, cool. So again, the center dot of the hex to the center dot of the target hex. It barely clears that dune, and it barely clears that dune. I'm aiming at this rocket truck, this MLRS back here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. I am in range for a tow missile. My heavy weapons platoon, my AT-4s, my grenade launchers, my Mark 19s, that's all out of range. However, my tow missile with a range of 20, oh yes, she's in range, baby. So tows are going to hit this Soviet truck. Obviously, if I hit it, it's toast. It's 50 against 2. It's just whether or not I can hit it or not. Nevertheless, it's 5 to 1. Let's see what happens. 2, he's toast. Now, he is an unarmored unit, so he does not produce a rec counter. But just for fun, I do put in... I do tend to put in smoke markers. That... So I'll make it a little bit smaller so it doesn't get confused with an oil fire. And it doesn't have, again, it doesn't have the little tank graphic in it. So it has nothing to do with stacking. This is literally just, you know, decorating the board. Bloodying up the board. Alright. That's going to be it for Marine fire, because I got a lot more movement I want to do. Alright, so again, left to right on Marine movement. Task Force Shepherd is going to get a little aggressive. He fired, he does not get to move. He's on foot, he moves forward his 500 meters. 500 meters, 500 meters. These LAVs are significantly faster. So I'm going to secure this objective X by fire. I don't actually own it yet, but if any Iraqis try to get to it, I'm going to shoot the hell out of them. That's going to be it for that movement. Again, working my way eastward. I can't really see anything yet. There's a lot of dust coming up from behind those dunes. Oh man. Let's bring up some reinforcements. Help us! These guys all moved. Turreted AFV rule. They get to move half their movement now. So half my movement is 5. 1, 2, 3. Oof. Hold on. Extend this line a little bit. Again, I have to kind of pretend I don't know the Iraqis are calling in artillery on the hex. Again, in a live game, you would not know that. And then I've got guys over here too. 1, 2. Okay, I'm opening up myself to some flank fire here, so let me get a little bit of protection. The Marines can also afford to play with distance. So, Marine tanks, I guess you guys have seen some of the graphics that we had in our Op Center episode 3 for the Gulf War. It explains how the different rules work for how the ranges are. Not only are Western guns longer ranged, actually they're not in this case. It's 16 versus 16. They're both, the Americans have a 105 millimeter gun, the T-62s have a 115 millimeter gun. So the range is actually the same. That's the 16 in the upper right hand corner. However, when they double and when they have, basically when the modifiers, either positive or negative, kick in, is very, very different. So, in case it gets confusing, always stick to the #1 rule of fighting Soviet tanks. Do it at a distance. Never fight Soviet tanks close up if you can possibly help it. These 4 tanks also fired. Actually, everybody fired. So I can only move this guy half. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. These guys fired half, but they're on a road, so they're going to stick on the road, and let's get double movement rate. So where were they? 1, 2, 3, 4. So I'm trying to build up a gun line here so that if and when these Iraqis pop up over these berms and try to make a bum rush toward me to overrun more of my tanks, or maybe my infantry platoons, I will be able to get one hell of an opportunity fire phase on them. These guys here are a little vulnerable, so I'm going to extend the flank, fire support flank. Oh god, there's more guys. Jeez. Yeah, there's so many of them. They're kind of far away, though. And they're literally walking since I blew up most of their BTRs. So again, that's 1, 2, 3, 4. That's 1,000 meters. That is 4 Flames of War tables that they have to walk across on foot. I got a little bit of time. Okay, this tow missile launcher never fired. I'm going to go ahead and try to engage that unit. Apparently he never unloaded because he's still on top. So, did not allow myself to correct Marine mistakes. I will not allow myself to correct Iraqi mistakes. So 50 against 4 is obviously, the chart only goes to 5 to 1. So once you reach 5 to 1, you can go ahead and stop counting. 4, that's a kill, and guess what? There's an infantry unit still inside, so both are destroyed. One armored and one not. Over here, I'm just trying, again, there's going to be a heck of an infantry battle here, so I'm trying to sort of extend my my marine defense line, bring in some fire support. Again, a lot of 50 cals and Mark 19s on these 50 cals and Mark 19s. On those AAVs. Here's that Bravo company I was talking about. So there's the headquarters element. Here is LAV platoon number 1, LAV platoon number 2, LAV platoon number 3. Again, you're allowed to put 4 units in a hex. These guys are so far behind, by the time they get up to the front of the battle, they're going to be, whatchamacallit, battle's going to be over. So these guys are going to instead load into, just to show you guys how it works, load into their AAVs. And next turn, they're going to, oh no, I didn't mean to do that. Next turn, they'll be able to move at the vehicle movement rate. They're spending this turn waiting for the AAVs to move into their hex so they can pick them up, and then loading them and all their equipment into their AAVs. 2 platoons, I'm talking about 10 vehicles and about 100 men. So, yeah, it does take a whole turn. So again, the transport vehicle is on top of the stack, so it shows that they're loaded. They're a lot more vulnerable, so watch out for those Iraqi tanks. 1 shell in there is going to kill 2 units, and there goes 20 more points. That's sick. Okay, all these guys have fired, so that means they fired during the Iraqi turn during opportunity fire, so now I can now move half. Let me not expose myself to more tank fire. So I'm staying behind that sand berm there. Okay, over here, these guys have all moved, or fired earlier. I'm not moving within 2. If I move within 2, wait a minute, this guy fired, these 3 units did not fire. AAVs. Yes, sir. Shh, get out of the way. And behind them, they just see a column of Marine tanks. Okay, the AAVs say, sir, we're moving out of the way. Now I'll finish up my movement. 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm taking a little bit of a risk here. He can take opportunity fire. He doubles because he is at point blank range. This is one of the few times Iraqi tanks ever double, is when you get this close. I know I just said never ever engage Iraqi tanks at point blank range. I am actually kind of doing it though. Okay, so I'm moving up to that hex, and I'm declaring that these 2 are going to watch out for those. Oh frig, saggers. Oh jeez, never mind. We're not doing that. The second I pop over that sand berm to overrun these tanks, infantry fired guided missiles. Infantry fired guided missiles. I do not want to make the mistake the Israelis did. Do not do that. Alright, we're going to take our time. I'm definitely going to pull that LAV platoon out of there to make sure he doesn't get killed by this last functioning T-55 platoon. But I tell you what I will do. I will move up and make sure that I can see him, but they can't see me. And again, that's the interrelationship between firing unit 1, target unit 2, and firing unit 2. You want to, it's where that berm is. So if you're adjacent to a berm, you can shoot over it. You're assuming to be peeping over it and shooting over it. And that's if you're adjacent to the berm. If the berm is literally between, or the dune, whatever you want to call it, if the dune is between you and the target, like right there, it blocks. Assuming you're both on ground level, which they are. Ooh, I almost just threw away more Marine tanks there. That almost sucked. Tell you what I can do though. Infantry platoon number 1. Okay, this guy can't do anything because he fired earlier. He used his 12 attack points during the opportunity fire phase that helped pin down these T-55s to begin with. So that's already happened. This regular rifle squad, however, I'm pretty sure he also threw in his 8 points. In fact, I'm almost positive he did. So he also can't help. But these two guys here, 1, 2. I will take some opportunity fire from this 15, but that's going to be 15 reduces to 8 versus 10. It's 1 to 2 odds. He might pin him down. And yes, in Tactical Combat Middle East edition of Panzer Leader, the Iraqi player does get points for even disrupting or pinning down, dispersing an American unit. It's only 1 point. It's not 10. But so the Iraqis are going to pin down one of those Marine rifle platoons on a score of 1 through a 3. A 3, he doesn't. Or a 2, he doesn't. The required roll was a 3. He got it with a 2. Again, in Panzer Leader, you always want to roll low. So that's 1 Marine unit pinned down. That is going to cause... I'll use this as a little marker there. The Iraqi score is now 11 points. That was probably a little too gutsy. Especially since I now have 8 versus 24. You have to cat-attack the entire stack. I was trying to launch a close assault and blow up these pinned down Iraqi tanks. Probably not my smartest move. So 8 against 24 is 1 to 3. However, we are using Tactical Combat Middle East. So it triples. And subtracts 2 from the die roll. Holy crap. Okay, that 8 becomes a 24. Might have been a better... So I'm looking at his attack factor, 8. It triples to 24 versus 24. It's 1 to 1. I subtract 2 from the die roll. Make that 3 from the die roll because he's dispersed. And if I score a double D, he's killed because he's already dispersed. The difference, again, for people in the chat, between a double dispersal and a dispersal, if you're not already pinned, a double D is the same as a D. You're just pinned down. If you are already pinned down, a double dispersal or a double pin, whatever you want to call it, is read as a kill. So you become a lot more vulnerable when you're pinned down. Is the long and short of it. So 1 to 1, net subtract 3 after all modifiers. So I think I got him. In fact, I got him. Even if I roll a 6, I subtract 3. 1, 2. Even if I roll a 6, I subtract 3, so that's 1, 2, 3. That's a double D, that's a kill. So earlier in the week, over on tabletop, we had the discussion, um, or they had the discussion about removing dice from the game. Guys, I gotta tell you something. Some of us have been doing it for 20 years. There are obviously dice in Panzer Leader. That's not really what they were talking about, but Panzer Leader does get to the point where it rewards you for good play. Now, I did waste an artillery fire mission, unfortunately. I'm going to be bombarding a bunch of dead tanks. So I didn't plan that out terribly well. But it does get to the point where you can straight out remove dice from the game. If you get very chessy with it, you can just take randomness completely out of the game. It does happen. And he has taken his opportunity fire. Just to remind me for later. Because these guided anti-tank missiles cannot engage versus infantry. You cannot shoot saggers at infantry. And these buildings block all these heavy machine guns and these BTRs. So that was actually pretty safe. A little wasteful, because I threw away a pinned. I probably took a couple more WIAs there, and my artillery is now going to be hitting nothing. But I still just kind of wanted to shut down this armored threat here on my extreme wing, because I'm going to have plenty more problems going forward. Just to wrap things up, because we're coming up on 2 hours on the stream, I really should have done this earlier, but for now, I'm going to go ahead and use up my air phase. Air phase takes place a little bit earlier in the game. Also, sometimes players like to save their air power for later on in the game. But again, because the stream is just about over, it's almost Super Bowl time, I'm going to call in my marine armor. My marine air power. Because why not? Right? Marine air power. F-18 Hornets. Firing Hellfire anti-tank guided missiles. I can fire them from up to, I think it's 8 hexes away. And I do want to be careful here because ground fire is the thing. 12 is yeah, so I got 2 anti-aircraft guns back here. The range is 10 hexes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Yeah, I'm fine. Alright, cool. I'm trying not to expose myself to enemy ground fire. Because if you actually look in the TCME rules and you find the victory point value for shot down coalition aircraft in the Gulf War, it's basically game over. If you lose a coalition aircraft, it's next to impossible, but if the Iraqi player just somehow gets away with it, it's like 25 points. It's a lot, yeah. And again, it's to make the game fair and yet unfair. So the battle has to be unfair because that's the way the Gulf War was. But you want the game to be fair, otherwise who the hell would ever want to play the Iraqis? The Iraqis are going to score some pretty solid damage next turn. They're going to take some more lumps, but they're going to overrun some more AAVs. They might even overrun some Marine tanks. Yeah, they're going to score. And again, they get points even for just dispersing enemy units. Iraqi artillery is definitely going to pin down. I got bad news for you. Iraqi artillery is going to pin down these 2 guys. That's more points for the Iraqis. Pin down, double pin. That's 4 or 6 more points just in Iraqi artillery fire. This game is looking like a slaughter. And it is a slaughter. I mean, look at the kill ratio so far. But at the end of the Iraqi fire phase, the score is going to be tied. I can almost promise you that. And that's just the Iraqi fire artillery phase. Then they get their fire and maneuver phase, and they're going to score more points there. So the sign of a good Panzer Leader game is if each side is sort of winning by a small margin in points at the end of their turn. So you take a turn, you're up by 3 points. The enemy takes a turn. Okay, now he's up by 2 points. That way, the 2 sides, the game's always in doubt. The game's exciting. Even if the battle is turning into an absolute, look at this, an apocalyptic slaughter. Like me and Ben used to say, wholesale butchery. You've all seen the photos where it's just a flat desert an ocean of burnt out Iraqi tanks, and behind that, oil fields on fire. That's the Gulf. I mean, look at. Is this starting to look familiar yet? I mean, this is literally what we're aiming at. The trick is to make a game like that still fun for the other player and still challenging. It's an imbalanced game is bad for both sides. I mean, yeah, it sucks to play the Iraqis in a 1991 game. You're going to get reamed like you've never been reamed before. And it's boring for the coalition player too, because who the hell wants to just sit there and throw marbles at plastic soldiers all day? I mean, you want the game to be challenging as well. So yeah, the Marines have a lot to do. They have to take all these objective hexes. I haven't even gotten into what the objective hexes are. And they have to do it in X amount of time, and they have to do it without taking practically any casualties. Marine casualties in this battle, again, were effectively 0. Again, I think it was like 1 killed and 7 to 10 wounded. And that was 1 artillery shell. 1 artillery shell landed in a bad spot and actually killed a couple people, or killed like 1 person. Wounded a bunch of Marines, and then also killed, I think it was 23 Iraqi POWs. Even that shell killed more Iraqis than Americans. And then at the same time, you're talking about thousands of Iraqis killed, thousands of prisoners taken, and hundreds of vehicles destroyed. So making that battle fun for both sides is a game design challenge. Panzer Leader does support it. Tactical Combat Middle East, not my game. You know, I made this map and I made these counters, but the actual scoring mechanism is from an actual published game that you guys can download. I think it's on Wargames Vault if you're interested. Tactical Combat Middle East, TCME by Toshash Miniatures. You will need the Panzer Blitz rules to play. It's only an expansion. Okay, but let me just wrap things up here. I'm firing off my missiles again. I probably should save this for later, but the hell with it. So this number is actually wrong. For Hellfires, it should be higher than 30. I'm just going to go ahead and call these attacks 4-to-1s. Which is probably not right, but yeah, because my toes get 50. How the hell did I make that mistake? You guys see where my toes get 50, but my Hellfires only get 30? What kind of sense does that make? All right, so that's a mistake on the counter. Those F-18 Hornets should have 50 G, but they only get to shoot that once. That's their ordnance package, and they either have to fly home, or they can continue to strafe targets with their 5. That's their chain gun. They get 4 chances with their chain gun. So again, in a real Panzer Leader game or a TCME game, I would probably save these Hornets for a little later in the game when I really needed it. But again, the stream's wrapping up now, and I just, I'm going to go ahead and loose things off here with a little bit of a fire attempt here, a little bit of a missile strike. So F-18s flying high, drop the Hellfires, and watch them fry. So I'm going to have 1, 2, 3, 4-to-1s. Come on, baby. Triple 1s! Not only did they all hit, but each one went right down the hatch of the Iraqi tank command. You don't get any extra kills for that, but oh my god, you never get a better roll than that. Again, in Panzer Leader you want low rolls, so triple 1s on 3d6. That roll comes along once every 6 times, 36 times, 6 times, 36. I don't even know what that is. 6 times 36. Once every 216 times you see a roll like that. Yeah. That's going to be 3 more T-62s out of gas. Except I keep forgetting where they are. So you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to put the wreck counter down first. And then put the... Come on. I'm having fun for a change. Don't ruin it, computer. That was some CNN footage right there. You guys know what I'm talking about. That footage, that shot was so perfect. That's the shot that the news crew guy chooses to use in his CNN broadcast that night. Alright, meanwhile I've got some Cobras. Cobras also fire Hellfires. So you know what? I'm just going to shut down these T-62s because these T-62s scare me a little bit. I can shoot over berms because again I'm a flying unit, obviously. Staying out of range of ground fire. So it's going to be 3 more 50s, so 3 more 3-to-1s. I'm aiming for these 3 guys here. Let's keep it simple. And unfortunately, this is kind of my big whack as far as air power goes. From here on out, it's going to be mostly artillery and ground firepower. Okay, the Cobras actually missed once. So only 2 kills. He's dispersed, IE pinned down. Alright, that wraps things up for the for the Marine turn. And again, the stream is, we're kind of wrapping up the stream here. Like I said, I wasn't going to go through the whole game, God knows. This is just sort of a demo to show like how big these battles can really get in Modern Warfare. But just to sort of wrap things up, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to refocus all Iraqi artillery fire on the same hexes. Because if I don't kill them, if I only pin them, here's what happens. They are pinned and I'm going to hit them again next turn. So I've gone through the first part of the Iraqi phase, which is to call in my new artillery. Now I'm going to resolve last turn's artillery, which is pretty ferocious. 2 13s. I have 2 13s. 3 13s. That's right, we're organized by regiments. I did lose 1 truck, so that one rocket truck lost his firepower because he's literally on fire. So I got 23s. So 2-to-1s. 3 2-to-1s. Alright. I think you can die on 2-to-1 on this new on this new table. You can die actually pretty easily. Yeah, 1 or a 2. Holy crap. Okay, Iraqi artillery. Holy shit. Alright, here I go. Oh! That's a kill. 10 more Iraqi points right there. Dispersed, dispersed. 2 more Iraqi points. So a total of 12 more Iraqi points. So the first one was a kill. That's him killed. That's him dispersed. Oh wait, I didn't do that right. Him killed, him dispersed. Him dispersed. I got more dice I gotta roll. 1, 2, 3. Hold on. Each artillery mission affects everything in the hex. There's another kill. And another dispersal. And that 6, I believe, is a whiff. Oh boy. I told you. I think the Iraqis are winning now. I know that looks. I know that sounds crazy. And so far, that is 3 more dispersals. So again, oh, I don't know if you guys can see that. I'm just sort of keeping track of my score here. The Iraqi score is now 33. Okay, last but not least, that last batch of rocket fire from God knows where it was. Where the hell is that? 36 hexes away. 28 points is going to be a 2-to-1 only against 1, 2, 3. Oh, this guy down here. All right. I was gonna say he's too far away. Did I call that in badly? But never mind. I was looking at the wrong target. So 28. This is a Grad rocket truck. Everyone knows what a Grad is. If you don't, now you do. This is the modern version of the old World War II Katyusha. One of the modern versions. This is one of those if you're going to buy one Soviet Cold War vehicle for your army, make it a Grad. These things are everywhere. There isn't a continent except for Australia and Antarctica that these things have not killed people on. They've killed people in Central America, so yes, North America counts. They've definitely been involved in wars in South America. Dude, they're all over Africa, the Ukraine. They were used in Southeast Asia by the North Vietnamese, used by all the Arab armies and the Arab-Israeli wars. These things are everywhere. I think they've killed more than anything else in the Ukraine war. Statistically, they've really done a lot of damage. Brutally simple weapon. Super cheap, super easy to use, and not very accurate, but who cares, man? The Russians don't, that's for sure. Alrighty. Alright, so I got distracted there. Okay, so 28, however, it's an H-class weapon against an armored target, because the only thing in there is now actually an armored target. So that is going to be 14 versus 4. Oh man, they may get another kill. 14 versus 4 is technically 3-1. So I'm rolling on this row here. Oh no. The Marines are definitely losing this game now, at least at the moment. A 3. Yeah, that's another kill. The Iraqi score is now 43. Oh, sorry. These are not armored units, so they only count as 5. They're not armored vehicles, but still. What I just lost is an armored unit. Oh, where is it? This map is too big. Seriously, where the hell is this stupid thing? There it is. There's way too much desert out here. So, 10, 10, 5, 5, plus 3 dispersals. The Iraqi score is now 33 versus 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24. Score is currently 33-24 Iraqis. Do I expect the Iraqis to maintain that lead? I don't think so. Because these Marine tanks are now in position. Most of the heavy, or at least half of the T-62s are now on fire. Half that battalion died. They never even got a chance to shoot. Again, welcome to the Gulf War. I've picked off a lot of low-hanging fruit by blowing up those empty BTR 60s. By the way, I made a blatant mistake with my Marines there. If I had fired during opportunity fire phase, I would have basically doubled that score, because all these infantry guys would have died with the BTRs. But because they were patient and they waited for everybody to bail out of the BTRs before I blew up the BTRs, the infantry survived. That was just a game sequence, turn sequence mistake I made here running the game. I have kind of whiffed on, or I haven't whiffed, I've kind of blown my wad there on most of my Marine air power. My Cobras are still going to be a factor because they still have that twin barrel. They still have rockets, and they still have that triple barrel rotary gun in the nose. So my Cobras aren't completely done yet. My Hornets pretty much are. Again, don't rely on air power to win your games. If you can win a game with an airstrike, you're playing the wrong game. Here is what is going to turn the tide for the Marines. We talked about this earlier. Freaking artillery. So far, Marine artillery hasn't really gotten a good whack yet. Trust me, once it does, it's going to be absurd. 3 entire battalions, at least 9. I gave them 9 because I was trying to be nice. That could go. They could conceivably go as high as 12. It depends on whether or not you put 4 batteries in a battalion instead of 3. I just went ahead and sort of was nice to the poor Iraqis and said I'm only going to put 3 batteries per battalion, so I have 9 instead of 12. 155mm batteries. It's crazy. They can hit anything on the table. 72 hexes of range. They can literally hit anything. That's to the point where they're not even on the table. Right now, what they're going to do is later on in the Marine turn, Task Force Shepherd is going to continue to swing around, and in fact, right now, they might already have some more stuff spotted. Yep, I've got some Iraqi artillery positions spotted. So again, what these guys are going to do is they're going to start calling in artillery for that off-board artillery, and we're going to start neutralizing this Iraqi artillery. Because Iraqi artillery, as you can see, is really the only real threat to Marine units. I've got to shut down that artillery. What's probably going to happen is on the Marine air phase, for next turn, what I'm probably going to do is all this air power with their secondary weapons, they're just going to go chain gun the bejesus out of this artillery. And once Iraqi artillery is neutralized, that frees up Marine artillery to just start harvesting a grim feast out of all this dismounted Iraqi infantry. Flechette rounds, air explosive rounds, dual purpose improved conventional munitions are going to be coming down. Copperheads are going to be coming down. That's the anti-tank version of the 155mm shell to hit some of these Iraqi tanks. The artillery shell fires, it kind of pops open and an anti-tank missile comes out, locks onto a ground target that's being designated by a Marine on the ground with a laser, and that's all she wrote. So right now the Iraqis are winning badly. Like I said, it's like 23 to 30 or 24 to 33 or whatever I said. But again, and we're not even done with the Iraqi turn yet. So that score is probably going to go up a little before the Marines get their turn. But once the Marine turn 2 comes around, they're going to clean up that Iraqi artillery with air power, with secondary air power, and then it's just going to be tanks versus their tanks, which we win. And then it's going to be our artillery versus their infantry, which again, we win. I had a sloppy first couple turns there and lost way more than I should have. 4 platoons, man. Whew. You almost never see that in these, well, really 2 platoons and some transport. But still, bad news.